Okay, we're going to begin the notice executive session of the House Election Law Committee. I'm going to make a motion to reconsider CACR 22. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor? We'll call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Thank you. We will stand in recess for 2 minutes. Okay, we're 2020 now. Motion to reconsider CACR 22 carried when the executive session opened. We're now back on the motion of inexpedient to legislate on CACR 22. Is there any discussion on the motion of inexpedient to legislate? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll on the motion of inexpedient to legislate for CACR 22.
Representative Quayle.
No.
A point of order, please.
We're in the voting mode.
Okay.
Representative Ingerberg.
No.
Representative Burnham.
No.
Representative Wary.
No.
Representative Wood.
No.
Representative Osborne.
Nope.
Representative Kutab.
No.
Representative Alexander.
No.
Representative Lane.
I'm sorry. I was not aware of voting on this, so I don't know. I don't
No,
know what to do. I didn't have a chance to
I
respond.
assume not voting. It's okay. We're not going to get to 10 anyway, so.
Nobody said what CACR 22 relates to. or what it
CACR
is.
22 is putting the First in the Nation primary into the state constitution.
And we're reconsidering it.
The motion to reconsider is already carried.
And now we're voting again on ITL.
The motion to reconsider carried when we reached a majority. We are now reconsidering the vote. We are now voting on the motion of inexpedient to legislate on CACR 22. We are in the voting
I
mode.
believe that there may be some confusion amongst the Democratic members who showed up a few minutes late because there was a motion that happened before you showed up.
So the motion to reconsider was a voice vote unanimously 14-0.
Before the entire committee got here.
Correct, because you need a majority to open executive session. I understand. We need to continue the vote.
Okay. What is it? CACR what? 22.
22.
Do you want to vote?
I want to know how I object to the parliamentary proceeding that was put in place. We all came over here right after the session. I walked immediately from my seat and walked directly here.
I understand you could file your objection with the clerk and the speaker, but we are in the voting mode.
Okay, so the motion for CACR
CR 22
22.
is we are reconsidering, the motion to reconsider has passed. We are now in the vote. We are now back on the original motion, which was inexpedient to legislate on CACR 22. I understand. We are in the voting mode.
I will vote. The CACR 22 would put in the Constitution that we have to be the first in the nation,
Correct.
and I'm voting against it.
So you vote,
I'm-
you're
I
voting for
don't
the motion
want
of
that-
inexpedient legislate.
The motion that
Yes.
is then for ITL.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
So you're
ITL.
voting yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Eventually, yes.
Yes. There we go.
Representative Ward,
Yes.
Representative Hamer,
Yes.
Representative Hamblett,
No.
Representative Muirhead. ITL.
The motion is inexpedient to legislate. So if you are against the legislation, you would vote yes. If you are for the legislation, you would vote no.
So yes on the no. Representative Bay.
Yes.
Representative Brennan.
Yes.
Representative Grill, no. Representative Howard.
Yes.
Representative Rafter.
Yes.
That is.
Clerk vote
I
for
did
that.
not vote.
Oh,
The
I did not
Chairman
vote.
Barry, sorry.
The chair votes no, and I believe Representative Prudhomme O'Brien wishes to vote
Oh,
as well.
Representative Freedom O'Brien, I'm
I
sorry.
vote no.
Would
No,
any-
okay.
Would any member wish to change their vote?
I would.
Okay. Representative Hamlet's going to change from a no to a yes.
yes.
Would any other member wish to change their vote? Okay, with that, the motion of inexpedient to legislate fails on a vote of 11 to 9. I will now make a motion of ought to pass. Is there a second?
I second.
Katab seconds. Is there any discussion on the bill?
Yes, there is discussion on the bill. Representative Brennan has a question.
Yes.
Thank you. Can you go through how it was 11 to 9? I thought it was 10-10.
I voted no
Thank you.
in support of the CACR.
Is there any other discussion on the motion of ought to pass? Yes, Representative Lane.
Yes, I will file a motion on how this has been handled. We have worked so hard for 2 years to have a really great bipartisan relationship. And in one vote, you've managed, I think, to really destroy that. How can we trust that? I'm just,
Yep, I understand.
I'm personally offended, but also just as a group, that's just not how we have operated for 2 years.
I understand, Representative Lane. I figured you and I would speak after this, and I will explain to you my rationale behind it. It is within the rules. It was a notice executive session. I said CACR 22 from the well. It is per the rules. I believe it's Rule 13. The executive session requires a majority present and voting. We waited until that point, and all we did was call for the motion to reconsider. Anyways, is there any other discussion on the motion of ought to pass? Yes, Representative Grill.
Maybe I'm getting deja vu, but I think we passed a CACR already this session.
We did not pass a CACR already on this one yet, no.
I thought that was
Representative Howard.
Yeah. So to Representative Grill's point, one of the things that we have discussed was statutory changes that would give the Secretary of State more flexibility as to how they could set the primary date. The problem in what we've been discussing is, yes, I think everybody in this room supports the first in the nation presidential primary. That's not a question. What the debate is and what the situation of putting the date in the Constitution is that it creates a completely rigid system that does not create any flexibility in how we can set the date. So it kind of leaves us in a situation where we could be usurped, and it would make it more difficult for us to change when we can actually hold our primary. Thank you.
Further discussion on the CACR. Representative Lane.
As I recall, when we discussed this before, if by chance the CACR does not pass, then it puts the state in a very awkward position of trying to continue to be first in the nation. So we would be shooting ourselves in the foot if that's what we wanted to do.
I understand. Representative Brennan.
Thank you. In the past, there has been bipartisan support for our First in the Nation primary and bipartisan support against a constitutional amendment for something that is controlled by the Secretary of State. To have this bill come up and be acting in the way that this committee is acting today is very strange to me. Why we would want to put our voters and our state in this position to take a vote on a constitutional amendment that very well could fail. And where does that leave the state in defending our First in the Nation primary? Not one of us knows the outcome of a vote on a constitutional amendment for First in the Nation primary. It is a very high bar to get a constitutional amendment passed by voters who may not feel as strongly as some of us feel about the value in defending our First in the Nation primary. Is this really a risk that this committee wants to take? Do you want to risk losing the First in the Nation primary? Because that's entirely possible. If this were to go to the voters, you do not know the outcome of this. How much do you value our First in the Nation primary? Are you willing to take this risk? I think, in principle, many of us feel strongly in support of our First in the Nation primary and do not want to take that risk of losing it by a small margin, because that's all that it would take to lose it. A small margin to lose it. A huge, high bar to secure the First in the Nation primary in our Constitution. Our state law has been doing just fine in defending our First in the Nation primary. Our Secretary of State has emphatically supported our First in the Nation primary, even when party politics have been at play from both parties over the years. New Hampshire has defended our First in the Nation primary simply by following our state law. To put this in our Constitution, or to attempt to put it in our Constitution, actually does more harm to the history and the tradition and the maintenance of our First in the Nation primary. I'm very concerned.
Representative Katab.
I think it is a very important topic, and I think it should absolutely be left to the voters to decide on. And I think it is bipartisan. I mean, it did pass on the other side of the wall unanimously. So I think that there's a lot of support for this. I think a lot of people want to see us first in the nation. A lot of businesses really depend on our First in the Nation for renting out hotel rooms and other things, you know, for their economical survival, really. So I think it's a really important thing that we support this. Thank you.
Excuse me, Representative Quayle.
I don't consider putting a motion to the voters to be a risk, because I trust that the voters will make the right decision collectively. In fact, I think the will of the voters will be, by definition, the right decision. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to comment who hasn't commented yet? Representative Ward.
Just one comment, since the legislation for the primary came out of Portsmouth, I feel I should say something. I'm not sure Representative Spillane would go along with this. I do have a question. Let's say this passes, is it enshrined in the Constitution? What do the other 49 states care? Does it have any authority with anybody?
It's a great philosophical question.
Yeah.
I am going to come back. I'm not ignoring Representative Lehman. You know that I have to let other people who've not yet spoken speak, and then I come back to you.
I'm asking for a caucus.
I'm sorry, you're asking for a caucus? I will allow a caucus. How long do you need, Representative Lane? We can be here back in an hour. It's fine. How about we give you 10? I understand. 12:25, good for you, Representative Lane? Okay. Okay, 11:10, yeah, 12:25. We are still on discussion of the motion of ought to pass. Is there any further discussion on the motion of ought to pass? Yes, Representative Brennan.
Just a inquiry. If ought to pass passes and it goes to the House floor, what is the threshold for passing a CACR on the House floor?
A CACR is a 3/5 vote of those members present and voting, and it has to be a roll call vote.
Just to correct that, it's not president voting.
Oh,
the
sorry, it's
entire House.
entire caucus. I apologize.
And a quick follow-up. What is the threshold for voters? If this were to go to the voters, what is the threshold? The amount of voters that need to vote in favor.
I understand the question. The threshold to pass a constitutional amendment in the state of New Hampshire requires 66% of the voters voting.
Thank you. And one more follow-up, if I may. Who is going to be responsible for the financial burden of campaigning to pass a CACR, which tends to be an expensive endeavor to reach as many voters as possible to reach that threshold to encourage the passage of a CACR? Who is financially responsible for that?
It's a great question for the body. Would anyone like to answer it? Okay. Any other members wish to comment on the motion of ought to pass on CACR 22? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Representative Quayle,
Yes.
Representative Perdomo O'Brien,
Yes.
Representative Ankerberg,
Yes.
Representative Burnham,
Yes.
Representative Wary,
Yes.
Representative Wood,
Yes.
Representative Osborne,
Yes.
Representative Kutab,
Yes.
Representative Alexander.
Yes.
Representative Lane,
No.
Representative Ward,
No.
Representative Hamer,
No.
Representative Hamlet,
No.
Representative Muirhead. No. Representative Bay,
No.
Representative Brennan,
No.
Representative Grill, no. Representative Howard,
No.
Representative Rafter,
No.
Chairman Barry.
Chair votes yes. With that, the motion of ought to pass fails. The bill will be reported out without recommendation. I will take the ought to pass report.
Excuse me,
Yes, Representative Lane.
how is it going to be passed with no representation where we reconsidered it? We voted not to, ought to pass it, so now we have to do something else
So we voted against ITL, correct?
to reconsider.
We voted to reconsider.
Okay,
We
so
voted against the bill had originally been voted 20-0 inexpedient to legislate, correct?
correct.
So when we did the reconsideration, it went back to the prevailing motion, which was inexpedient to legislate. We voted down in the inexpedient to
Voted it
legislate.
down, right?
We just did not vote up ought to pass, so it is now without recommendation.
No,
Excuse
now
me,
we have
Mr.
a new
Chair.
motion.
Oh, there's a new motion. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would like to motion interim study.
Okay. There's a motion from interim study. Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion on the motion of interim study?
Yeah, I'll speak to my motion. This is something where putting the presidential primary into the Constitution, I think, needs to be looked at a little bit more in depth. This is something where usually we've approached this from a statutory framework, and that's worked out very well. Our Secretary of State has been able to keep our presidential primary for the last 100 years. It's something where we are able to update it and maintain the presidential primary requirements as necessary and easily through the statutory means, because we don't need to go back to the voters every single time we want to make a change. We don't necessarily know what the impact of putting this in the Constitution is going to be. Are other states going to listen to the New Hampshire Constitution? Do we have jurisdiction over them? I think not. And these are questions that I think need to be answered before we go and actually vote on adding this into the Constitution. I think that we all support the presidential primary and the first in the nation. I do. I voted for the statutory changes. But this is something where we're not necessarily talking about the first in the nation primary when we're talking about the issues with the legislation, the potential issues. And that's why I think that we need to study this a bit further. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the motion of interim study? Ooh, excuse me. Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll on the motion of interim study. Haven't had one of
Representative
these yet.
Quayle,
No.
Representative Prudhomme O'Brien,
No.
Representative Inkerberg,
No.
Representative Burnham,
No.
Representative Wary,
No.
Representative Wood,
No.
Representative Osborne,
No.
Representative Kutab,
No.
Representative Alexander,
No.
Representative Lane,
Yes.
Representative Ward, Representative Hamer,
Yes.
Representative Hamlet,
Yes.
Representative Muirhead, Representative Bay,
Yes.
Representative Brennan,
Yes.
Representative Grill, yes. Representative Howard,
Yes.
Representative Rafter,
Yes.
Chairman Barry.
Chair votes no. With that, the motion of interim study fails on a vote of 10 to 10. Are there any other motions anyone would like to make? Okay, now the bill will be reported out without recommendation. Representative Lane, who would you like to take the interim study report? Representative Howard will be responsible for the interim study report. Excellent. And I'll take the OTP. Okay, now on to hopefully nicer things. We're going to close the executive session on CACR 22, open the executive session on Senate Bill 534 relative to campaign finance. Representative Lane is recognized for a motion.
I move to ought to pass.
All right, I will second the motion of ought to pass. Representative Lane, do you have an amendment? Do you want to pass your amendment?
Yes, I'm sorry. I can't remember the number.
I have it.
It's 1582, I think, but I'm not
Let me
sure.
trust but verify.
Yeah.
What was it, Representative Lane? 15.
I think it's 1582, but I don't have it. I'm sorry. I thought we'd have time.
No, it's okay.
Okay. I don't know. Is that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Representative Lane moves Amendment 2024-1856H. I will second the amendment. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
I will.
Yeah.
Okay. I do want to thank the subcommittee and the committee for working so hard on the bill and for being patient and chiming in. It's been a slog. So thank you very much.
I utter that, and I appreciate the thanks, Representative Lane, but the reality is you carried most of the work on this, so you actually do deserve most of the thanks. It was a team effort, but you did most of the work. Representative Quayle.
Yes, I just want to reinforce what you just said about Representative Lane really doing the heavy lifting on it. And I do appreciate the fact we were able to work on it cooperatively.
Yeah. Meeting with the Senate is never fun. All right. It's not a dispositive motion, so we can pass it with a voice vote. So all in favor of adopting Amendment 1856H to Senate Bill, good Lord, Senate Bill 534, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it on a vote of 20 to 0. We are now, Representative Lane is now recognized for a new motion.
I make a motion for ought to pass as amended.
Representative Lane moves ought to pass as amended. I second. Is there any discussion on the motion of ought to pass as amended on Senate Bill 534? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Representative Quayle,
Yes.
Representative Prudhomme O'Brien,
Yes.
Representative Inkerberg,
Yes.
Representative Burnham,
Yes.
Representative Wary,
Yes.
Representative Wood,
Yes.
Representative Osborne,
Yes.
Representative Kutab,
Yes.
Representative Alexander,
Yes.
Representative Lane,
Yes.
Representative Ward,
Yes.
Representative Hamer,
Yes.
Representative Hamlet,
Yes.
Representative Muirhead,
Yes.
Representative Bay,
Yes.
Representative Brennan,
Yes.
Representative Grill, yes. Representative Howard,
Yes.
Representative Rafter,
Yes.
Chairman Barry.
Chair votes yes. Representative Lane, you've already done all the work on this bill. Would you like the report, or would you like somebody else to handle the report? All right, Representative Lane will handle the report. With that, will be the last time we meet. We have no more
Consent
bills.
calendar,
Does it have a fiscal note?
It
It
does,
can go on the consent calendar. So yes, we will go on. Any objection to consent calendar? Hearing none, I'll go on the consent calendar. Thank you guys so much, and I imagine I'll have some people who want to talk to me. So see you guys later.